What is the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue using a Scyther? We are on to Lorelei. So taking a quick look at Scyther's move pool, it is pretty thin and no real good coverage here. But it does have some redeeming qualities to it when it comes to its base stat. So it has incredible attack and very good speed. And it has the ability to learn Sword Stance and Agility, but we're going to stick with Sword Stance. So real quick too, we need to talk about Lorelei. She has what is called good AI. So she is most of the time going to be using Aurora Beam. And that is also true for the Cloyster. So basically what we need to do is we need to be able to set up 2 Sword Stance. What this will allow us to do is take out not only the Dugong, which I believe we could do after just 1, but it'll also let us take out the Cloyster. The Cloyster has very high defense, so there's really no other way about it. The other thing we need to watch out for is when we get a critical hit, it is not going to take our Sword Stance into account. It ignores all stat changes when you get a critical hit. So the idea is if the Pokemon use Harden a whole bunch of times, you get a critical hit, you're going to do more damage. But in our case, it's actually going to hurt us. And critical hit ratio is tied to base speed. Scyther has a really good base speed. So a lot of times we are going to crit and it's going to hurt us. So actually here we're just trying to not critical hit. I think it's about a 20% chance that we do critical hit. If we use a move like Slash, it's going to be about a 100% chance to critical hit. Another thing to note is after Hyper Beam, if you knock out the Pokemon, you don't need to recharge in Gen 1. So then we're going up against a Lapras. We're just hoping for no critical hit here. And we go, and no critical hit. So that's Lorelei. Should be a pretty exciting run. Definitely some ups and downs on Scyther here. We'll see if it can beat Pinsir as well. So the question I ask you is, what is the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue using a Scyther? We are on to Bruno. So I got to give props to Bruno on this one. This was not the first run through. What happened the first time is I mimicked Harden. I went for Harden. The Onix was also using Harden and X Defense. And then it started using Rock Throw, which is 2 times super effective. And it actually ended up knocking me out. So that was pretty sweet to see. However, this time, Onix uses Rage, which is probably the worst move in the game. So what I was going to do was go for Sword Stance and worry about Harden later. But then once it got into Rage, I just said, well, okay, I'm fine then. If you don't know, Rage is 20 base power, locks you into attacking. But every time you take damage, your attack stat goes up. But it never seems to matter, even if I hit him, 6 times. And then I go for Slash. What is nice about Slash is given my high speed, which critical hit ratio is tied to, and Slash being a high critical chance move, I'm going to critical hit about every time. And when you critical hit in Gen 1, it ignores all other stat changes, good or bad. So I'm able to actually do some pretty good damage to Onix. I go ahead and just go for the Hyper Beam just cause. At this point, I'm not too worried. I have 6 Hardens up and 3 Sword Stances, so there's really nothing I can do. And Scyther is naturally fast, so even if I do level up, I don't think it's going to be much of an issue. So that's pretty much it if you're ever trying this run. If you can get Onix to get into Rage, you're going to be good to go. I go for Hyper Beam here. I don't really know why I did, to be totally honest. Sometimes when you do runs, I just use moves just to see what would happen. And sometimes in those runs, it just happened to be the one I win in. So I'm thinking, I don't know, what do you guys think about Rapidash? I feel like that might be a hard one to beat Bruno with. Let me know your thoughts. Who do you think that Bruno could whoop up on? And I'm probably looking to do that one sooner rather than later because I want to change of pace on these Bruno runs. Machamp is a tank. It hangs on just barely, but it just uses really bad moves. So we're able to take the victory there. So thank you guys for your patience. So the question I ask you is, what is the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue using a Scyther? We are on to Agatha. So the thing about Scyther is it really only has one move that can do any damage, reliably anyway. And that is using Mimic to get Nightshade. If you go back to the Lorelei video, you'll notice it's pretty much all normal types. I think you can use Bide, and you might even be able to use Rage, I'm not sure, but, those moves are not very good. So we're going to use Nightshade, which does a fixed amount of damage. So what we want to do is try to minimize how many times Agatha's Pokemon can attack. Another thing that I ran into is I would mimic Nightshade and I would get about 9 of them. But it would take 3 to beat each of the ghost Pokemon. But Agatha has a pretty good chance of using a super potion when her Pokemon get below 25% HP. So if she uses even 1, then I run out of Nightshade. So I had to actually use my last PP up on Mimic. So when I Mimic Nightshade, I have 11 PP for Nightshade instead of 9. I did try to get to level 60 because I was trying to make this Haunter a 2-hit KO, but it looks like I was off by about 1 level here. The other thing that we have to watch out for is Agatha will switch her Pokemon randomly. So if you use Nightshade and she switches to Golbat or Arbok, you're wasting one of your Nightshades, which you really don't want to see. What is nice is Scyther is fast, so we are outspeeding just about everything. So then all we have left here, it seems to be that Gengar level 60, so we're just going to go for Nightshade. I think we had 5 PP left on this, so we were looking pretty good. Toxic, that's great. So at this point we're feeling pretty free unless she does a Confuse Ray or Hypnosis. And then so look, this is a super potion thing I talked about here. So she can only use 2 on her Pokemon, so we're lucky we had enough Nightshades to take care of it. But if she would have used a super potion on any of her other Haunter or Gengar, we would have been stuck and we would have lost. And that happens so many times. So that's why we had to go all the way up to level 60. So the question I ask you is, what is the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue using a Scyther? We are on to Lance. So basically what we don't want here, because Scyther's special is not that great, is we just don't want to see Hydro Pump. Honestly, Hyper Beam is better than Hydro Pump. So Dragon Rage is great, so we're going to go for a Sword Stance. Then the Gyarados does end up using a Hyper Beam here, but it's not too bad because we actually tank it pretty well. And Gyarados has to recharge, so we can set up our final Sword Stance here. I could have used a rare candy to get to level 61 so I wouldn't level up during this battle, and so I could use the badge boost a little more, but I was really trying to keep Scyther as low as possible. Agatha already made me get higher than I wanted to be. So then I level up, and as you'll see, it really doesn't matter. Scyther's speed is great. What I'm hoping for is to just not miss, and other than that, it's pretty free. Hyper Beam's like 90 or 95% accurate, so there's a chance we miss, but so far so good. The Aerodactyl I was nervous on if I was going to knock it out because it is rock type, so it's not very effective. But didn't matter with 3 Sword Stance and Scyther's great attack. We're good to go. The Dragonite we're going to go ahead and miss, which I didn't love to see. So then we get a Hyper Beam. I was pretty nervous here, but we hang on by the skin of our teeth. How great is that? And then we're able to hit our Hyper Beam, and there we go. That's the battle. That's Lance. So the question I ask you is, what is the lowest level you can beat Pokemon Red and Blue using a Scyther? We are on to Blue. Okay, so the Pidgeot is a troublesome one. It can do a couple things that will ruin your day, but basically we just don't want to see a wing attack. And we don't want to let it use Sword Stance. So I go ahead and I don't let it hit me with that Sky Attack. I just take it out there. I'm going to do the same thing with the Alakazam. I really don't want to let it play around with me too much. Even though we are Bug type, our special isn't very good in Alakazam. If it uses Reflect, it can be kind of hard to take down. Now, if we look at the Rhydon, it can't do a whole lot to us. I mean, Leer and Tail Whip aren't ideal, but it's really not that big a deal. Horn Drill will not even work on us. Horn Drill, it's tied to your base speed, and if your base speed is less than the other Pokemon, it just won't work. I don't know if that's for me or just the computer, but that's how it goes. And if you look at Slash does next to nothing, even with all of our Sword Stance up. And then the worst thing that can happen is what's happening right now. Fury Attack, when one attack is a critical hit, all of the attacks are critical hits, and it hit me 5 times. So I'm at the point where I'm just like, well, I'm just going to start Horn Drilling this, and I end up getting one. Something to note, look at the PP on Horn Drill here. Or you have to wait till Executor. RK9's a non-issue. I'm faster. I'm going to one-hit KO it. If I were to miss and it used Ember, that could be bad, but it didn't happen, so we're good. So look how many PP Horn Drill has. That's because I mimicked it, and I used PP up on Mimic. So I think there's a little glitch action going on there. I'll have to test that out and see if I can replicate that. And then I'm just going to go for the Hyper Beam. I'm Sword Stance up. Scyther's kind of a boss. Let's see if we can do it. Perfect. There we go. So that was Blue. Thank you, guys. Don't forget to follow. And the question I ask you is,